Good morning. It's 11. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I am sharing my screen already, and you should see where you need to download the Performance Matters app if this is your first session, just so that you can scan the QR code at the end to receive credit. But some of you may have already been in one of the earlier sessions today. Please feel free to unmute yourself if you have questions. So let's get started let's get quizzical with Canvas. So I'm a instructional technology facilitator for Richmond County Schools. 7 years as a facilitator, 12 years as an elementary teacher. I did teach 1 year outside of elementary education. My very first year, I was a math teacher for 7th, 8th, and 9th grade combo class, which I taught geometry, Algebra 1, Algebra 2. That was a long time ago. I've shared my email, and if you get out of the Zoom by accident, I included the link to the Zoom there, and the ID and the passcode. The digital teaching and learning competencies today that we're going to focus on, you can read. I'm going to leave them up there. They're in the slide deck for you to see, but digital content and instruction and data and assessment. So in the chat, if you know who Rick Grimes is, he's the lead character in The Walking Dead, which is one of my favorite shows. No, I'm not a big zombie person or goth person, but someone told me to watch this show, and I said, I'm just not into that. And I watched it and fell in love, and have watched all the seasons. But which one describes you by looking at him for how you're feeling about the upcoming school year? If you want to type that into the chat. Like I say, I feel a lot of fours, a lot of ones. 2 is probably myself, because of the fact I'm just thinking, yeah, I might be a mix between 2 and 3, but definitely the outlook of what's to come, what's going to happen, what changes will we see with students returning, especially our district students are returning. So it's kind of sitting back and just watching and waiting and seeing what's going to happen. But that 3 we may feel that way at the end of the year. So I have a public course for you all that every change that I make, all the things that I do today will be in this course. It's just a course that you can always refer back to and see. So I've shared that course here for you. And the work I'm going to do today, when I share the Canvas course, will be this course for you all to be able to refer back to. And I'm going to get started. I'm going to actually leave the slide deck, and I'm going to actually go inside of Canvas so you can see the work being done. But I'm going to actually follow this model from the build. So I'm inside of my Canvas. I'm going to actually make it larger so you can see it. inside of that course, so that you all will be able to see what I'm doing. I'm actually going to start from assignments because I have the most questions from teachers about where to build a new quiz, the new Quizzes 2 or Quizzes Next, whichever one you want to call it. They always ask me, well, where do I build? There's multiple places to build. You can build inside of the actual assignments tab, the modules tab, or the quizzes tab. So I'm inside of assignments. And one of the things that teachers have asked me is they're like, well, it's just a quiz. I feel like I just quiz them all the time. We think about using this in other ways. Use this as a check-in, a daily check-in. Just maybe 2 questions just to see, are they getting what you're teaching? Use it as an exit ticket. I have a lot of teachers that use them as spiral reviews. They come in here and add a few things, and this is a spiral review. Is it a grade? It may be a participation grade. It's not necessarily always a quiz or a test. Think about other ways to use it. I also have a teacher that she goes in, and when she builds one of these, she puts in snippets of her lesson, and after each snippet of her lesson is a question. So she kind of uses it as her lesson plan throughout the quiz. So it's just different ways that you can use this other than just thinking it's a test. You need to kind of move out of that because of all the options that you have inside of this new quizzes format. If I have any admins with me today, I can tell you that the administrator at the high school that is one of the schools I serve here in Richmond County, he actually built a Canvas course. And when he built his Canvas course, he shares all of his documents. He shares daily messages with teachers, anything that teachers need to see in the school. He shares all that through his Canvas page. And when he does, a lot of times he shares it through the quizzes format and has the teachers to go in and respond to questions so that he knows what they've seen and have they seen it. But what he liked about having it in a Canvas course versus setting up a like a Google quiz or going in and doing a form for teachers to fill out. What he really liked about using it in Canvas is always in one spot. He didn't have multiple Google forms he had to create. He didn't have multiple folders he created. It's in one spot. It's all in his Canvas course. He knows where to go back and look at that data. He knows where to go back and look at how did teachers respond, and it just makes it easy for him to be able to go in and see all that. Do I have any administrators with me today? You'll type in your chat. If you work closely with your administrator, if you have that kind of relationship with them, maybe something you want to recommend, because you, of course, would be the teacher that would have rights to always refer back. You wouldn't have to go search through your email for it. Just go back to the course and you find everything right there in the course for you. All right, so from the assignments tab, we're going to look at all 3 ways to build. The first way from the assignments tab is under my groups. If I wanted to add a new assignment, okay, I'm going to call it today's quiz. You can always come back and adjust and give it a due date. I'm always going to give it 100 points. And you can save it or more options. I'm going to save it. Then I'm going to come in and select it and edit it. From this edit, when I come down to the submission type, this is where this has to change. It is an external tool, and you'll find that in the slide deck. I also added it there, but it's an external tool. And whenever you go in to find it now, because I manage all the external tools for my district, because I'm the lead Canvas person and I manage all that. These are the tools that our district has requested and added. So you may not have all the ones that I have, but you will definitely see once you scroll down, and they populate in alphabetical order, whoever manages that in your district. But you're going to look for the one that's labeled Quizzes 2. That is your new quizzes for Canvas. So when you select your Quizzes 2, you can load the tool in a new tab. I don't recommend it. I want it to stay within the Canvas tab that I'm working on. You can give limited attempts or unlimited attempts. I usually limit my attempts to 2. Completely up to you as the educator in your classroom. If you say, hey, they get 1 attempt, that's it. That's fine. I'm just going to say 2 attempts. Here's where I add that due date. Remember, if you are in a district that you're able to sync your grades from Canvas to PowerSchool, due dates are highly important. You have to have a due date before that will sync. And you're available from when do I want students to see it? When do I want it to close out? I usually say 10 days from your available day because of the fact that absence, that kind of thing, give them those 10 days to get that in. And once I say save, it's going to open up the build. This is what that new quizzes format looks like if you haven't been in and taken a look at it. So that's building from the assignments tab. Now I want to return, always gets me back into my course. Now I want to build from modules. So let's say I have that quizzes module and I want to add. And when I select add, I want to add a quiz. And I want to create a quiz. And now in modules, it gives you the option. If I want the new quizzes, which is your quizzes 2, which is the new one that we're looking at, or if you want the classic edition, which was the original Canvas quiz type, I want the new quizzes. You give it its title. Remember, if you're syncing from Canvas over to PowerSchool, titles cannot be longer than 30 characters. Add item. If you notice that I have a black rocket ship here, that means that this is the new quiz type. If you look up here, I made sure I had an old quiz or the classic quiz because it has the green outline white inside. That lets me know that that's the old type. When I select it, it's going to open it up right back to my format. This is where I would give it those points, give it my assignment group. That's how we sync to PowerSchool. Once I scroll down, I give it its due date, my available from, and until. But notice I have a new word here. Here I want to select build, and it lights up for you according to what your district colors are, but it will light up for you build. The build lets you get to your screen to create or build your test. Last but not least, that third way, I'm going to head over to quizzes. And I'm going to select to add a quiz. Now, choose your quiz engine. This means that you may want to use the classic quizzes, the old type, or the new quizzes. Once you select one of these, if you come down and select remember my choice for this course, you won't see the option anymore. So be careful with that, because I have some teachers that say, I still love some options in the classic quiz that's different from new quiz. So if you want to always have the option, do not select this box. Once I say submit, it's going to open back up for me. Let me name that quiz. And build again. So those are my getting started from the build. Questions? Have a question, type it in or unmute your mic. Okay. We want to move right along. I'm going to then talk about the layout now. So I'm looking at this new quizzes and I'm looking at the layout. So I see some options across the top and to the side. I see build. Build is, of course, where we create. This is where we add instructions. This is where we add our questions. We have settings. This is our test settings. This is where we can turn on to shuffle all of the questions. If you don't want to shuffle the questions, but you want to shuffle the answers, it's just slides. You can turn them on. You can come back and make the changes even after you create your quiz. You can come back in and make those changes. One question at a time. I can tell you that I have lived with ADHD my entire life. I've been on medicine for about 28 years of my life. So I am someone that 100% one question at a time. Because if I see a question with 50 tests with 50 questions, you lost me as soon as it opens up, because now I can't pay attention. I'm all over the place. I'm looking everywhere because it's too much for me at one time. So think about that for your students that struggle with ADHD. Require a student access code. That's a password. If you want them to have a password to enter into your test, you can require that pass code or access code. You can also set a time limit. So if you're trying to prepare them for a time test, it's great to have that option to give them, okay, we're going to have 45 minutes. You need to be able to read 5 passages and answer so many questions. So you can set that. Filter by IP addresses. If your district sets that up, that only certain IP addresses are used in, like in a lab, or you have access to that information, you can filter by that. We don't turn that on in our district. It's just too much for teachers. We've figured out less is more. Allow a calculator. If this is a assessment that I want to allow them to use a calculator across the entire test, I can come in and turn it on. That way I can say, do I want it to be a basic calculator? So if it's a 3rd grade test, it's a basic calculator. Or if it's middle school, high school, it's a scientific calculator. Which one do I want them to have access to throughout the test? Allow multiple attempts. So if I give them a test and I see they all bombed it, I can come back in here and turn on that allow multiple attempts and adjust that and give them another attempt on this test, because I need to reteach. I need to go back and reteach this information and allow them to come back in and take this test one more time. Whenever I do, of course, I can come in and say, which score do I want to keep? Do I want the highest? Do I want an average of the two? The latest or the first? And give them those attempts of how many times. Require times between attempts. How much time? Do I want to say, well, I'm going to let them wait 2 days because I'm going to recover the information. I'm going to reteach it. I'm going to go over it one more time. I might even do a spiral review. So maybe a couple of days in between there. So you can allow those multiple attempts. Restrict student result view. If there's ever been one that teachers were so glad to see, it was this one. Because whenever students see, they immediately say, I got a this, I got a that, and they start telling the other students, and they can even go back and see what they've scored and see some of those questions and take screenshots of them and share them with their buddies in other periods or blocks during the day. So you can say, I want to just show items and questions. Do you want to just show the student response? Do I want to indicate whether it's correct or incorrect? No. Do you want to show the points possible? Or do you want to show the points awarded? What do you want them to see? I say just show the items and the questions if they want to review it. If you don't want them to see anything, just say restricted. You don't necessarily have to select anything. Reports. Here's where you'll find your data. So after you've given that quiz, you can come back in here and you can see your quiz item analysis. To me, if you've ever used SchoolNet, in which I love SchoolNet, it's a really great tool. But to me, some of the data platform inside of that really needs to be updated because of the fact that it's not very simplistic and sometimes it's hard to read. To me, this one is beautiful and it's very easy to read. So there's your quiz and item analysis and your outcomes analysis. If you attach outcomes to your course, moderate. I like moderate because of the fact that whenever you have students that have a 504 or an IEP, you can come in here and you can set up those goals for your students for the quiz. So I'll actually leave this and go into one of my quizzes where I have some students, or one of my courses where I have students, so that I can show you what that looks like, because I can't hear because I have no students. Back to the build. Now, if I want to import from item bank, so if I have item bank set up, all right, so I'm going to pause for a second because there is a question, and it says, can I import a quiz, or do I have to create it from scratch here? So far with the new quizzes, you have to create it from scratch, or if you have a classic quiz, so if you have a classic quiz that you created, you can move it over to, so if I go back over here to my quizzes and I go to, I can migrate it. So you can see this is the old quiz type because I made sure I had one here with the old rocket ship. And I went to the 3 dots and you can migrate it. When you migrate your classic quiz, it becomes the new quiz. Another question that has come in, is there a Canvas library to search for other teachers' quizzes? Absolutely. It's the Commons area, the Canvas Commons, and I'm going to make a note here to make sure I go back to that. And if you guys have not been in the Canvas Commons, one of my favorite statements is, if it's free, it's for me. There's tons and tons and tons and tons of stuff in there. So I will take a minute to go over that at the end. Did I answer the question about creating it from scratch or importing it? Good with that? Okay, good. So you can still import. So if I have like a CSV file, or the file that you have to take and you have to import it in, if you import in that type of quiz, it still has to go in through the classic quiz. And then you can still migrate it. They haven't come up with a way to make it work from there. So I'm going to go back into my quiz and we're going to start that build. We'll look at these question types. So the first question type we're going to take a look at, the stimulus. A lot of the teachers thought, well, when they think about the stimulus, they think about it just being for ELA teachers. This is a great tool for ELA teachers, but it's also great for science teachers, math teachers, social studies teachers. And I'm going to show you why in just a second. So the stimulus looks a lot like state testing. Whenever I think about state testing, I think about whenever you're going to have a passage is on the left-hand side and it moves on its own, and the questions are on the right-hand side and they move independently from the passage. Not only that, if I'm going to have a bar graph, if I'm going to have some type of image that I need to look at, all of that would be on that stimulus side, and then I'd have my questions on the right-hand side. So in here for content. So first things first, if I wanted to go out and borrow, notice I said borrow. I want to go and I want to borrow some text from, let's say I have Wonderopolis up. This is really good site that provides text for students, gives them some information. And this one is Why the Stars Twinkle. So let's say that I wanted them to read this. Maybe I wanted them to answer some open-ended questions. But this is the text that I want them to read. Of course, I'm going to simply just come in here and copy it. And I would grab it all, but for sake. I'm going to paste it in. Now, I'm going to tell you it's not going to look exactly like that, but anything that you see in there, it is going to highlight the words. It's going to do exactly what you saw from the website. Here's what I love about this. I've borrowed this. Remember, I said borrowed. Well, I want to give it credit. So I'm going to go right up here to the top and I'm going to copy that link. I'm going back to my quiz, and if you notice it says that I can source my URL, and I'm going to paste it in right here. The reason why, I want to give them credit for that. So if you borrow, make sure you source that URL. Remember those copyright laws. So I went in, I've got the text, I've added it here, I've sourced it. Now let's talk about item banking. If I decide that I want to start item banking these questions, the minute I start item banking these questions, this becomes an item banked quiz. It's not an actual quiz that I can give to my students. I'll have to come back and recreate and pull the questions from the bank. So once I select that I want to add to a bank and I start item banking my questions, you have to come back and create this test again and pull it from the bank, which if you do it the first time, then you'll always have them. So just think about that, but you can go back and use first file review. So it may be good to go ahead and item bank those. If you are like me, I'm not going to add it to a bank. Go back and add that in. Just made a whoops. Go back and copy my text again. So remember, you also have to have a title. And of course, I've named it the same thing, but for time's sake, I'm just going to type it in. And I'm just going to come down and add my stimulus. Now, you can see this looks really nice over here. Notice it's moving on its own. Now, when I look on the right-hand side, I can start attaching questions. Let's say that I want that. Maybe I want an essay question. Here is where the question title, and you have your question prompt for an essay. So if I come in here and this was that big open-ended essay question, your question title, you could have it just simply the same title as the reading. Over here, the prompt, this is the actual question. So your prompt is your actual question, what you want students to answer back. Do you want spell check? If you give them like a word limit, a word count, you can add those things in. Here's where you adjust those points. It's worth 10 points. And now I have it there for my students. Notice that this still moves this way. I can attach multiple questions. So I can attach a multiple choice. I can have my question here. I can have my answer choices. And notice I'm just typing just so you guys can see. Of course, I want to put my points in. Do they all have to be 10? That's also been a question. No, it can be 5. You can make them variations just to get to my 100 points. So now you see I have a question here. I have a question here. It's going to be separate from that. Yes, I'll make a note. I'm sorry, I'm reading the chat. I will show the calculator, how that shows on screen at the end. And yes, I like to use the graded notes as well for open-ended questions. So I'm going to go back up, and in the question she asked about the grading notes, you can go in and put your notes in to help you grade for whenever you're doing an open-ended question. You can put the notes in there of what the expectation is, what you have set the expectation for. You can put any of that information in there. All right, so that's the first stimulus. I'm going to preview it just so you can see how it looks for the students. So now taking a look at it as a student, you can see it moves independently on one side, the question on the other side. Now I'm going to add an additional stimulus because that's looking at it kind of like a language arts teacher. So I'm going to name this one bar graph. When I come down, I'm going to add an image. Now, I have saved a bar graph that I would ask my students questions about. I already have that image saved, but I have those options to upload media where I can upload an image, audio, video. You can drag and drop. I'm going to browse my computer because I actually have one saved just for today. So I have my bar graph image here that I'm going to ask my students questions about. Of course, I want to make it larger. This one was a free one, so I don't have to source that URL. It was a free download, and it was open. So once I add that stimulus, I have this bar graph on the left-hand side of my screen. So I definitely want my students to be able to come in here and see this the whole time for every question that I ask. So I would ask several questions on this side of my screen, whether it would be my multiple choice questions or fill in the blank. Maybe I want them to answer by numbers, words, whatever questions I ask them. But I was asked to show the on-screen calculator, so I want to go back into my settings and I want to allow a calculator. I'm going to turn on the scientific calculator. I'm going back to my build and I want to preview. You see the calculator sitting up top. So once the students have submitted and moved on to that, once they go into here, they can click on their calculator and they see the options here. Yes, you can embed a calculator from other options. I know that several teachers use it and they put it in their instructions. And I'll go back to that, but I put it in their construction and they use the Desmos calculator and they actually embed it in the instructions so it just stays up top, and they use an embed code and embed it there. So that's an option you have also. And some teachers will even just put a link to the Desmos calculator. And I'll actually put a link up for you in the chat because I have it saved for the Desmos calculator. That's the embed code. Any other questions about the calculator or about embedding that? Okay. So as you see, I'm back in the quiz and I have my bar graph here. I have my questions. I'm going to add just a multiple choice question so you can just see the stem. This is where my question would be. Come down, I'm just going to type in those answers. Okay, so as you see, and I'm going to cover all the question types, all the new question types. I would adjust my points. I would add my questions in. So, of course, I have my bar graph on this side. I would have all my questions that go with the bar graph right there in my stimulus. Last but not least, under stimulus, just trying to cover all those options out there. I have one more image that I have actually saved, which is the cell. And this one would be for like labeling the cell. And this one I actually created in PowerPoint. I went in and actually just took out the actual labels and put in ABCD because I wanted the students to be able to come in and name those. So I could attach questions. I could have them to come in and order these in ordering for me. I could have it where they come in and fill in the blank. What is A? What is B? What is C? Completely up to you, completely up to the teacher. But just to think, you can use stimulus outside of just a reading passage. It can be used for labeling. It can be used for the bar graph. It can be used for other options than just going in here and having students to read and answer questions. So it does give you other options. So questions about stimulus. So I'm going to go back over to the slide deck, and there is a Padlet. So I went over all these different things and focused on stimulus throughout. So there's a Padlet. You have other ideas for stimulus? Do you like to go into that Padlet and share those? That way all of you can see those ideas. I can tell you there's one that I left out for the stimulus, and that is to insert media. So you can embed. So like if you have a YouTube video that you want to embed here and ask students questions, you can do that. I know that the music teacher actually did recordings of themselves, like playing instruments and things like that, and would upload them here and ask questions. So you have those options that you can do that. You can link it. You can just add, you can always add your videos. You can add your images. So you have all of those options here. And I included that in the slide deck here so you could see, like if you wanted to have that video and you wanted to have the text or the image or graph, you can see all the different things that you can have as options. You can even include multiple links in a stimulus that you can have students to select or click on. And so once you get into the Padlet, if you have other ideas or ideas of ways that you like to use the stimulus, please share those there. That way you all can go back in and take a look. All right. So from there, moving out of stimulus, but stimulus was, of course, the new feature in the new quizzes type. So the next one I want to take a look at is I want to look at ordering. And so I'm actually going to use it from this question, the cell, and I'm going to attach a question for ordering. Whenever you think about ordering in the way of sequencing. So if I want to sequence something like from first to last, or even if you want them to do it backwards from last to first. So if I wanted them to sequence straight down, so if I wanted here for number 1, and I wanted to say that it is the, let's see, the membrane, the cytoskeleton, the nucleus. So I'm just typing in parts of that cell or parts of the cell that are over here. Well, if I want to tell them up here in that question stem to order the parts of the cell in order from A through J. So I need them to move these in order from A to J. And now I want to take a look at it. I want to preview that question. When I come down and I see it, they're not in order. So the students would come in and they would actually move these in the correct order from A to J. So that's what the ordering question looks like. Whenever you're giving students a quiz, and this is the first time they've seen this type of question type, I would suggest showing them this type of question in class. I would probably pull this up on the screen and show them, well, I'm going to put these in order, and I would move it around. It might be a different cell. It might look completely different, but I would definitely show them what the expectation is. You want to demonstrate it because they've never seen this question type before. You would want to demonstrate this to students. Don't expect them to just know what to do with this. Always demo it. Any questions about ordering? Remember, that's It's like sequence. You can use it within a stimulus. You can use it independent. You can use it that they order facts from a story. You can use it like a timeline, which event happened first in history or first to last. Give it that timeline piece. So you can do that. I know some of the history teachers do that for different parts of war and different battles and things like that. They have to order those from the time they happen to the time they stop, the time periods. Questions about ordering. The next one that I wanted to look at before, and I'm going to get to that hotspot, it is in the lineup, is the categorization. Categorization means I want to actually have those categories of things for my students. So I'm going to add a new question and I'm going to add a categorization. So when I think about that, I think about whenever I have maybe my first category is two-dimensional shapes. Maybe my second category is three-dimensional shapes. And then my answers up underneath, of course, those look different. So my answers underneath would be different for those. When I'm setting up the question, I put the correct answers up underneath each one of those categories. And then whenever the students see them, they're going to see them scrambled. So they're going to see something very different than what we see when we set it up. So under my three-dimensional, I have the rectangular prism, and you have your cone, you have your cylinder. Yay. Oh. Awesome. All right, so under my two-dimensional, I know that I'm going to have just your triangle, black and tight. And I'm going to have my rectangle. The basic square. All right, so I have some under there, but here's the thing. This is the one that is the tricky one. It's the distractor. And you can have more than two categories, by the way. I know that the culinary teacher uses this, that she has different types of cooking tools. And so she lists all the different categories and the students have to move those tools where they belong. The auto teacher, he uses it for, like he actually puts the names of tools and where, like if they fall, what part they fall up underneath. But this definitely lets you have more than two categories. You can add an additional category here, but the distractor. I can tell you that my CTE teacher that teaches spreadsheets, Excel, when she's talking about the ribbon, so she has like she'll give them the category or two of the tabs on the ribbon, and they have to put the things up underneath which tab they go under for the ribbon in Excel. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about whenever you pull up Excel and you've got all your tools across the top, that's actually called the ribbon. And you, of course, you have like insert, and you have your home, your file, your insert, all of those different ones across the top. But under there each piece of that's part of the ribbon. And so there's certain things under there. And so she lists those as categories. Well, one of them, she has always had an issue, and she said that it's across the state because she's talked to other CTE teachers that they call it cut that, paste that, or cut it instead of copy paste, which is the correct terms. So she uses distractors as cut that. They'll say cut that. And she used the distractor cut that, and that actually would put it under the category when that really isn't one of the categories or in one of the topics that should be there. So if you add distractors, make sure you've demonstrated this question type and make sure that you've told students not all the answers belong in categories. So distractors mean it doesn't belong there. So if I came down here and typed in the word shoe, I mean, of course that doesn't belong anywhere. But it may be that you add distractors in that, and I actually think I did like line and dot on my example, but if you add those in, they do not belong in a 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional shape. So students need to know that some answers may not be used. All right, and so I'm going to say done, and I want to preview it. I want you guys to be able to see. I left something out. Oh, your STEM, and see, I love it because it warns me. So, correct category. Once you have your STEM in there, I'm going to preview it. And it takes a minute because it automatically saves, you won't lose anything. And if you notice here, I see my 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional, and it's going to let me put it anywhere I want to. So if I come over here and I put it in there, it's going to let me put it wherever. This is exactly what the students see. So you may want to tell them you may have possible answers that don't belong. And I can tell you with categorization, it's all or none. So if they come in here and they have them all right except one shape's in the wrong place, they don't get any points. You can come back and moderate it and give them some fudge points. You can change that under the moderations. You can change that and give them points if you see that. But if you set them up and tell them it's all or none, and I'm not going back and giving you fudge points, you better know the 2-dimensional shapes. You better know the 3-dimensional shapes. It's completely up to you. You are the teacher. You call those shots. Okay. Questions about either one, the categorizations or the ordering? All right. We're going to take a look at hotspot now. I know someone asked me, what is that hotspot question? That hotspot question means we are going to ask the students to select something. Okay. So you actually add an image and you're asking the students to select the part. I love this question for maps. It makes a lot of sense to have students to hone in or click on a certain part of a map. So if I wanted to, and I actually saved the United States, I saved it ahead of time because I knew that I would need that. And so I want my students to maybe to come in and I want them to select Texas. I can decide how I want to move inside of here. If I want them to, if they click anywhere there, they're going to get credit. So I'm going to give them credit and say they picked Texas. If I rather say I want to use the oval, maybe I want to move it, make sure I don't have another part of the state. So if they click anywhere inside of here, the thing about the hotspot question is that if they try to click like up here, it's going to recognize that that's within this part. But if they click up here, it's going to mark it wrong. You can always expand your image. You can make your image larger if you need to. You can definitely come in here and size up. Mine's at the largest size. You can also come in and move it around with your polygon. If you notice what I'm doing, I'm making it dip more. So if they click anywhere inside of there, to make sure you don't miss parts of that, anywhere inside of there. Of course, I go back and give it that question stem. Your stem is always your question. So select Texas. Whenever we preview it, and I wish they would do preview buttons on each question. That would be awesome. Maybe that's a too common feature for Canvas, but it would be great. Notice I just see it and it says select Texas. So I can come in and select the wrong state. It will let me. And it's going to mark it wrong. But I can also come in and mark the right one. And let's say I hit submit, it's going to give me, like, as the student, hey, you didn't answer all your questions. You need to go back. Are you sure? And they can go back and answer their questions. I know that was someone asked me about the hotspot question. Any other questions about it? All right, time for my favorite question. It is the sneakiest question type that the new features have. And it's fill in the blank. And you're thinking, Tara, fill in the blank? We've seen that forever. Well, this one's sneaky. This one's super sneaky. The reason why is because this one has 3 different question types under this title, and you wouldn't know it by reading that it says fill in the blank. So we're going to take a look at it. So if I come in here and I type in a question, okay. That's a simple fill in the blank. What is today's date? All right, so it says type a statement and select text and press enter to create a new blank. Okay. And then I'm going to press enter. So what is today's date? So now I'm going to take a look. I have 3 options for this question type. Open entry, that's that good old fill in the blank. That's where I want them to just flat out type in what is today's date. Okay. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. This is the thing, and I was just typing in to type in. The statement is actually your answer. So let me go back up here and fix that. And I apologize. Your stem is your question. So what is today's date? So here, this would be your answer. Okay. Press enter. So open entry, this is what they have to type and it will grade it for you, which is great because nobody likes a fill in the blank test. Nobody likes that question type because they don't want to grade it. I get it, 110%. But with this one, it will grade it for you. It must contain, it must look like that, it must look like that. What I've noticed, the difference between this open entry and the classic, if they type July with a lowercase j, it will still give them credit. In the old type, you had to make sure you didn't have uppercase or lowercase. Like you had to give them both the options in the classic quiz. I know English teachers would say, don't you dare give them an option. July is capitalized always, but if it is younger students, you want to be able to give them that. Is that answer sensitive to spaces? It was in the classic, and I'm not positive about this one. It may be that we want to try it and see. I'm not 100% positive about spaces. We will try it though. So let me get through these next two and then we'll go back in and try it. So what if I wanted a drop down? Drop down means that it's kind of like matching. I will tell you all, this is a way to get around the matching problem that I have found with this new quiz. If you all haven't tried this, matching in the new quiz format, it is all or none. I'll say that again, it's all or none. So if they mismatch two of the options, it's wrong. So this is a way to get around that, is by coming in here and creating the drop down type of question. So it may be that you give them the vocabulary, you give them the definition, and then you give them the drop down of words to match to the definition versus matching. Because of the fact that if they miss one in that matching part, they get the whole entire question wrong. They have not fixed that. I will tell you that. And you would have to go in and fix it and fudge point every single one of those if you want to give your students credit for the ones that they got correct. With this drop down, it kind of gets you around that. So you could come in here, of course, and you could type in your vocabulary, your definition. You could type in, this is the correct answer, and give them the drop down. So then they would see the vocabulary statement, the definition, and then they would select from the drop down. Love this option a whole lot more than the matching because I can give them the points for each one of those vocabulary definitions. So I have them. You can add as many answer choices as you want. This is what drop down looks like. We're going to go back to that open-ended one and check on the spaces. I'm going to say done. I want to preview it just so you can see what drop down looks like. Wouldn't it be great to have that preview button sitting right down at the bottom? For each question, yes. If I can screen that to Canvas, I will. So what is today's date? Choose your answer. There's the drop down. And they select the date. So that will be the same thing for vocabulary. You have your vocabulary definition. They select the word. Please don't put the word up here and make them select the definition because that's going to take forever. I'm just trying to help you out with that. That will take forever if you do that. Going back down, we're going to take a look at that fill in the blank again. I had selected the drop down, now the word bank. So if I want to give them a word bank and I want to give them options for the word bank, they get to click and drag the correct word under the statement. So just like I typed in those answers, it would be a word bank. So, and maybe I give them the vocabulary definition, and then they have to click and drag the correct word. This also is a great alternative to the matching. So completely up to you, either one, but just remember, if you do matching, another option for matching is this, because this is strictly labeling or matching. So you could just have them to order it instead of going in and saying, you know, A is this or B is that, to get around that question type. So let's go in, and now I want to go back to that open entry, and I want to preview it because I want to see if spaces matter. I still think they would put a space here. I don't know if they would necessarily put a space there or a comma. So let's see, submit. I'm going to submit it anyways. I'll mark all this wrong, of course, that I missed. Spaces matter. Questions about that? I think it has to match exactly how I've written it here, except for the capital letters. Because I know the capital letters. They said, Canvas said they fixed that. I haven't tested it, but they said to fix that. Not sure. We're going to take a look. So let's say that they type it in. Well, let's say they type it in this way. That is correct. So we could say we want to highlight that. So yep. Let's see if it lets me. Close enough. Oh, here it is. Got it. Close enough. Exact match. You can specify your correct answer so they have fixed it, or the regular expression match. So whichever one of these. So if it's close enough, you'll take it. So that means even for the spacing. Do you want it to be exact match, or do you want to specify your correct answers? So if they come in here and do the 7/21, 2021, you'll take it. And I can take that one out from up there. You can add another one that if they type in the July 21, 2021, and they don't add the comma or they don't capitalize, so you'll take any of those. So Canvas did fix that, which is awesome. Because before it was exactly what you typed and that was it. There was no specifications there. Did anyone know that there were, that's a question I want to, anyone already know that there was 3 options under the fill in the blank question? Yeah, a lot of people I've noticed, like I did this training in the open road show, and we were just getting into the new quizzes being an option for teachers. And I actually showed a couple of little tidbits, and this was one of the tidbits I showed. But teachers are really thankful to have those options, just because I will say going back and talking about that matching, it not having those options for you to be able to grade each one independently. Back on the slide deck, I'm actually scroll down just a little, and there's that sneaky question type. I made sure I put it in there, and I put what the three different types were. But I said, what's the same as classic quiz? Because as you see, it's 1210, and I'm got to show you just a couple other things. The same as that classic quiz, file upload. If you haven't tried a file upload question, teachers love it. Me being a math teacher, I always had the file upload question at the very end. Why? Because they had to hold up their math, they had to hold up their work, and they had to take a picture of where they had worked out all those problems, and they had to file upload and submit that to me. Because no work, you didn't do it. You got it wrong. I don't care if you did put the right answer. If I don't see your work on there, you got it wrong. So I was one of those, I'm old school. So I had to see it because you'll know that you cannot work out math just working it out. I got to see some work. I got to see what you did. I got to see you thinking. So also some teachers said, well, you know what? I want a matching question and I don't mind grading it. I want them to label the skeleton. Okay, well, you gave them the picture of the skeleton, but you don't want to collect paper. And they hold it up and they take the picture of it and they submit it. That's file upload. The formula goes back into those numerical correct answers where they have to type out the formula for math. We'd be here all day. That is a one class in itself for that. So we're not, that one and the numeric one are both biggies. Matching again, it's just exactly the same, but the big piece there is that it's all or none and point standing. Multiple choice is exactly the same. Essay, they're required to enter a text response. Multiple answer, meaning more than one correct answer. And then, of course, your true thoughts. I do have course outline here. That is all of the stuff that I've went over today with all of that. I'm reading. I don't know if that's an option yet because I think with that software you have to actually create an export and an import in the classic quiz. Am I correct? You upload it as a PDF. When you upload it in as a PDF, and then you just have the students to go down and answer like number 1, number 2, number 3. So if you do that, yes, okay. So if you do that, Stimulus would be your place of business. So you would put that PDF, you would upload, save your PDF as an image, as an image instead of just as a PDF, and you would upload the image of that PDF here, and then you would put your questions in on the side. So question number 1, and then there are choices. But remember not to, whenever you do that, if you go in and add that, do not scramble your questions. You can scramble your answer choices, but not your questions. Does that help? Okay. And I know that there's been lots of teachers that have said, well, I can't upload my PDF here. But if you save your PDF as an image and not as the PDF, you can upload it and size it and make it larger. And some of them actually cut them in half. Will cut their PDF in half and just do maybe 5 questions up here in this stimulus and questions, and then move down and do another 5 and 5. Yes, you can put the link in there, but if you want it to stay constant where they constantly see it, over on the side, it makes it easier if you actually put it, see how I see that image of that bar graph the whole time, because it's an image. So if you save your PDF as that image, you can do that. And of course, you can use your snippet tool and snip that PDF and save those images as well. All right, last two big things here that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about your moderate. So I'm actually going into one of the quizzes that this is my course that I have and that my teachers are all a part of in the district. And we use this course that I share things with them, and they also have my teaching quiz, and I'm actually running my teaching one because that's where I have some moderations to show you. Can't remember if it's that one or if it's the Barbie figure. I think it's Barbie figures. Why is it not showing me all of them? I have students on this one, and I apologize. It may be white because of the fact that it's my courses were blank to begin with. And I'm just trying to get the one that I know that I've had answers. I've had students to submit so that I could see the moderations. I'm just going to choose some answers to see if I can see it. Still can't see it, and I apologize. But this is where you can actually turn it on for individual students, and I apologize you can't see it, but you can come into your moderate and you can turn it on for your individual students that once they, like, let's say they get an additional time in their 504, you can come in if it's a time test and you can moderate it for those individual students and give them the additional time. You can come in and give them additional attempts for just individual students and not for everyone. So if that's one of the stipulations that's in their IEP, that, okay, I'm going to give them this because they need to have more than one attempt, that's another thing that you can add in the moderation. You can also see those reports here. So you can come back in and you can see your item analysis. Again, I had data for all of these, but it's not there, and I apologize, but you can come in and see your items, your quiz analysis. You can see all the information. You can see the information on each individual quiz question. You can see how they answered. So if I go back in and I see lots and lots of stuff where I can see all my kids answered A to a question that they all should have answered C, well, then I know that's something I need to go back and recreate. All right, so I have one question. I want to go over the Canvas Commons because I promised I would do that, but I wanted to go back up. I have two requests. Can I share my PowerPoint? Yes, you should have this. It should be a link for you all. But if it's not, was it not linked in the NCBOLD app? Was if it should have been. I sent a link to this Zoom. We're actually recording these, and they are going to be saved in nieces and nieces for you all to be able to get back to. So I can tell you that. Okay, so it was. She's saying yes, it is. There, it is linked to nieces, and yes, this link to my PowerPoint or this Google slides is there. I go back to the code. That one. The one we scan. Yes, for credit. Yes. Give me just a second. Give me 1 second. I want to talk about Canvas Commons, and I'm going to give you the one you scan. All right, Commons. If your district doesn't have this turned on, go talk to your IT people. Find them. Email them. They need to turn it on. This is free. This is across the United States. Let's say that I wanted to come in. I wanted a test on cell division. All right. And as you start typing, if you notice, they start populating for me. So I definitely left out my eye. All right. So these are labeled for you of what they are. This is an assignment. This is a quiz. Hey, if I just want to see quizzes, I can come to my filters. I can turn on a quiz. Just want to see quizzes. So, hey, I want to see this quiz right here. Guess what? I get to preview this as well. I get to see the quiz. If you guys do not have Canvas Commons turned on, if your district does not have this turned on, please, please, please get them to turn it on for you. You want to import it, download it. I want to put it in my course. I want it to go into my course. So I'm going to put it in that Let's Get Quizzical course that you all see. And y'all, because I manage my district, I see lots. So I'm going to import that into my course. It tells me it has started. I will tell you, if you go into Commons and start shopping, don't get over happy and put a whole course in. Because if you put a whole course in on top of your course, oh my goodness, that is going to cause a whole bunch of problems for you. So make yourself what I call a sandbox, a course that you create out on your dashboard. That's kind of like your dump box, so to speak. I have them. It's my Canvas 2.0 for high school. I dump other courses in here. I go through and look at stuff, and then I push my stuff out to my teachers or push my stuff out into their course that I think this is their course that would be helpful or useful to them. So be careful of that. Any assignment, any page, any discussion board, any quiz that you find in Commons, you can put that directly into your course that you're live teaching in. And guess what? When you borrow it from Commons, you can edit it. It's yours. You can go in and make changes to it. So I wanted to say all of that. I want to go down to the one that you all need to scan. Any other questions about Commons? Move this box. So you can scan it. Oh, there it is. There's your code for your scan. Any other questions? My email is back in that slide deck, so feel free to email me if you have questions about something or if you miss out on something. Please feel free to email me. I do all the instruction for Canvas in my district, so I'm more than willing to send you anything I have, share anything, send you any information I have, sheets, directions, whatever. Let me know. Thank y'all so much. And once you scan, if you have questions, of course, I'm going to stay on until 12:30. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. You're so welcome. I'm glad y'all enjoyed it. It was in the slide deck, but the Zoom link for the recording of today's lesson will be in these. Yes. And I think they said that it would be, we have until the end of July to send them the recording for them to add to the to Anissa. So it will be there by August 1. But if you email me, I'll send you the direct link to the Zoom. All right, so if you do not see the to be able to scan, you have an alternate attendance form at the bottom down here. Do you see that? So you can go into that bit.ly to get your credit. Bye. Okay, you see it, Angel? Make sure you're able to get it and get in.